Good evening. Hi, sweetie. It's always good
Hey.
to be back on the air with you.
I know. We have such a good time, and hopefully our
Absolutely.
viewers do too.
And the research for this show is turning out always to be more and more fascinating the deeper we
Yeah,
go.
I know it.
Gee, as
I know it.
curious as we are, thought that would happen. Hi, Deborah. Hi, sweetie.
Hello. How are
Namaste,
ya?
sweetie. So good. And
Oh, I'm
Angie
sorry.
is here. Your dog
She's
hears
hearing
me
me
now.
talk about hello, and God knows. Okay, so the dog says hi, everybody.
Absolutely. There's a squirrel in the yard or something. Hi,
I don't know.
Angie. Namaste, ladies.
Oh my
Namaste.
goodness.
Yay.
So I'm trying
Oh,
to. Yeah, I thought I put
oh,
our
you're
name
pulling
up
up
here
banners.
first.
So I will do our
Yes.
opening talk. Hi. This show is Eyes of Indigo, co-hosted by Iris Carter, who does have a last name. Iris, get your name in there.
Oh yeah, I changed it one time and
Iris
haven't changed it back.
Iris Carter and me, Margot Ross Sears, and welcome to the show. We are really happy, as always, to see our regulars back online with us. And we also like to welcome any newcomers. Hi, welcome to the show. If you are complete strangers to who is Iris and who is Margot and what are they qualified to talk about, well, then go back to episode. Yeah, exactly. We're rowing a boat here just like everybody else, learning as we go. But if you're new to the show, please visit on YouTube and Facebook our episode 1 or the very first show. And it's a compilation of our credentials and background that got us to this point. So also called the prequel. So feel free to enjoy that. We've done right around 30 shows since September of last year. We do this weekly, Wednesday nights, 9:30 Eastern time. Yeah. And so there's a lot of cool information. A lot of shows relate to each other in content, and we refer back to that when that happens. And our main thing, though, is we like to be intellectual with quite a few twists of humor and spurts of humor, maybe.
We like to think so. We make each other laugh. We hope we do.
We
Y'all
do. We
too.
crack each other up. And Iris's sister, Deborah, gave us a great byline, which was we discuss how does it go, Iris? How does that
Discussing weird stuff in
in a rational way?
Yes.
Discussing weird stuff in a rational way. Yes. And that's us.
I'm gonna have that tattooed on my arm or something where I can look
Absolutely.
at it all the time.
Yeah, get a cheat sheet here. Absolutely. So tonight's topic is very interesting, and it's twists and winds through a couple other ways that end up in a very spiritual place.
Yeah, believe it or not.
Believe it or not. The topic is fireflies and other fetishes. So, Iris, how did this conversation start when you and I first discussed this topic about a week ago?
Oh, holy cow. Yeah, it was interesting because, in fact, I think it was after the last show. We were talking about what did we want to do for this coming show.
Yeah.
And of course, like all our conversation, we go, well, what do you want to talk about next week? Oh, let me think. And then, well, by the way, let me tell you this story. So it was one of those kind of conversations where we're shooting off on everything else but what we needed to be talking about. But it's, again, it all comes full circle. I was sharing a conversation that I had with my sister, Deborah. And I had been in touch with somebody and I was writing them a formal business letter. But for some reason, and I didn't do a lot of research on the person, I just had a feeling that there was some fluidity in their sexual orientation. And the first name was Randy.
So that didn't help.
That didn't help. It's like Jean or Francis or whatever.
Sean, Robin, Terry.
And so I was like,
Sam.
yeah, and I went, hi, Randy, blah, 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 blah. And I get a response back, hello, Iris, and da, 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 da. And then at the bottom, I saw the preference of pronouns, he, him, And I was like, oh, okay, well, that answers the question. So then when I wrote back, I said, maybe I should have addressed you as Mr. Whatever. I'm usually not so casual in a situation like this, but I wasn't sure of your pronoun, or I wasn't sure because Randy is an ambiguous name or something like. I fluffed it up, and came back and he said, "Oh, don't worry about that. It's fine. Mr. is a little formal. Some people use MX." And I was like, and I was telling my sister about this, and I went, I have never heard that before. This pronoun crap, and I'm no judgment on anybody, okay? And don't judge me.
No, no. You know what? Don't apologize for having an opinion, because we're real clear about what's an opinion and what's fact and so on and truth and all that good stuff. And you're expressing your opinion, and
I'm
that's
not,
okay.
And I don't, and really, really, when it comes down to it, I don't care, and I will adhere to somebody's preferences, and I will, that doesn't really bother me. But it was just one of those conversations where I was venting a little bit, and I said, this is getting out of hand. I said, with the he, she, it, they, them, somebody was having a conversation on Twitter about they, and I said, well, because Demi Lovato's come out with her preferences of being non-binary, and it's like this whole new cis people and non-binary, and all, you got to learn a whole new
vocabulary.
And it was.
And does the word cis people, doesn't that sound contradictory all by itself?
Yeah.
I mean, it's supposed to be hetero people spelled CIS, but now you're talking, it sounds like cis is in cis-y, which implies strictly effeminate.
Yeah.
On any gender. And so that doesn't make sense. To call a straight person a cis or a sissy.
It's like,
because they call trannies.
Yeah.
They're gonna gay it up. This just use the vernacular,
Yeah, this new vocabulary. And I remember when people freaked out back in the 70s when we went to Ms. instead of Miss or Mrs.
Right, and MS was a big deal, right?
Yeah, and so now I'm like, MX? Really? How
we're leaping
far
again.
Are you gonna go down that trail? But
rabbit hole.
And so we were talking about it, and she was like, "Oh my God, I've never heard that one either." And we're sure, but when it all came to a closure, we were both saying, it's the fact that it doesn't matter. That why should it matter so much to somebody who needs that identifier to own themselves? If
that's people struggling for identity.
Yeah,
they're struggling to label their status, their strata, their stripes in society.
Yeah,
and that whole title thing is what you're talking about,
right? Yeah. And it's like, people are people, and right. And I respect the fact that if just like I would respect that your name is Margot, I'm going to respect any titles or whatever. But I went to a Quaker-based college where we didn't go for titles. It was, give me your first name, and we don't care about. And that cool was just so refreshing to me, because I've never been one that, I believe people deserve respect if they've gone to school or whatever, but they also have to maintain that respect to continue getting the title of doctor, or or for me to call them Mr. whatever. It's, and if I don't call you that, it's not because I don't respect you, it's just because
you didn't know.
I see people. I just see people. And I don't think anything other than I hope I can remember their name. But it's the person, and that's all that matters to me.
Do you remember the popular sitcom? I think it was through the 90s and into the 2000s that Kelsey Grammer did, Frasier.
Yeah.
Do you remember how he always introduced himself on the show? And after a while, it was obvious that they were making a statement about exactly what you're talking about. He never introduced himself as, "Hi, I'm Fraser Crane." He always said, "Hi, I'm Dr. Fraser Crane." And the man who played his brother said, "Hi, I'm Dr. Niles Crane." And they always called themselves Dr. So-and-so. They never, even to new women, even to guys that were old guys who were senior in their age, and children, even to children. And eventually the show, he was the executive producer of the show as well as the star, but eventually that was a part of their point, is that was part of his, egoic facade that was a mirror for his personal insecurity, that he had to have that wall. He had to have, that social split between him and the next guy in order to feel comfortable or worthy in a social conversation.
Exactly.
Yeah. And I've met many people that do that. They come at me for the first time and they introduce themselves as Dr. Da 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 da. And I'm
see,
like,
and
okay.
to me, the title and the pronoun, what you're doing with those things is instilling and perpetuating a
Separation.
Yeah.
Which is exactly
and stereotype.
Which is exactly what they espouse to be trying to break down. We want fair time. We want equal power. We want to be equally recognized. We want to be treated just like everybody else. But I'm only these pronouns and you're only those pronouns. And there's going to be a third group that they're going to have their own pronouns.
And I saw the story about Demi Lovato was trending on Twitter or something somewhere, and somebody was making people were making comments about one person in particular, especially was talking about the grammar issue of calling a person they.
Right.
And I just spent years teaching people stop using they. If you're referring to one person, there is no they. Yeah, singular.
Right. They is plural. Yeah.
And so then people were commenting on that, and I said, well, you want your mind really blown? There is a guy in Branson, Missouri in 2004 that changed his name legally to they, because they always say this or they believe that. And who is they? They is this man in Branson.
I wonder how long before somebody changes their name to I. Or you or me or something like that. They. How interesting. Somebody actually took that jump.
Yep.
That's cool. That is cool.
So then you start putting that in sentences. They is coming for dinner. Oh, does they like?
Okay, see, now you're getting into a little bit of ebonics, which is considered a legitimate grammatical system. It actually has a grammar system to it. It's just not standard English grammar. Right. And there's nothing wrong with either system. But yeah, now you sound like you're sort of what was pig ebonics instead of pig Latin. Pig Latin, pig Japanese, pig German. Now you got pig ebonics. Day is coming to dinner.
Yeah, and so the comment was made when I was telling you this story.
Yeah.
What was the motivation and how it causes division, and who is defining the narration, and why are people demanding these labels? And they're demanding the labels before we know the person for who they are. And let's see, what does Deborah
Your
say?
sister has said the same thing in a different set of words. I'm so not surprised. Please throw that up on the screen, because she says she's summarizing what you were saying, and looking down, you had no idea what she was writing. Y'all
There's
said the same thing.
there's a certain amount of arrogance on the part of someone who demands they, them as pronouns, upending the English language to placate their ego goes against my grain. Yeah. Yeah.
That was excellent, Deborah. And that's what Iris was saying too. You're upending the language to placate your ego, and you're actually underlining and forefronting your personal insecurity.
And devaluing the person that lies underneath. And I can't remember,
which is Neville. Yeah.
I can't remember how we made the leap to Fireflies from that point, but it but it happened. I don't remember. Like I said, I remember what brought the topic up, but we were talking, I can't remember about how we got labels or something. Yeah.
But the label Firefly came up, and I was asking you, do you know what a firefly is in slang terms?
And I did not.
And we had similar conversations before, so I was intrigued that you had not heard this yet. Let's go down that road. Can you throw up a few visuals to get us started?
Woohoo! I'm happy.
Bunch of half-naked bodybuilder firefighters. Ma'am, you're too hot. We're going to have to hose you down.
We can only hope. I do have to tell the story. And that might have been what happened that particular day. Quick, somebody
start a fire. And there's a bunch of guys posing basically for a firefighter's calendar, with a lot of oily pecs there.
Oily man.
Bunch of shiny six packs floating in the camera. Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. I'm a real fireman. I'm not a stripper.
Oh, like hell he isn't.
Honey, you be making extra money in your time off.
He's hitting the clubs from the backstage.
Hot flash. Let me help with that.
Help with that. Yeah. Iris had a lot of fun doing research for this particular episode.
Well, and what happened was back, this was again 20 years ago, I guess. And my mom had called me at work, and I worked an hour away. But she called me. My grandfather had fallen out of bed in their upstairs house, in the upstairs of their house. And she said, he can't stand, much less go down the stairs. He's got a dinner platter sized bruise on his hip. She said, I'm sure he's broken it. And he'd already broken one and had it replaced. And my grandfather was in his mid-90s at the time. And she said, I need to take him to the hospital, but he's going to fight me every step of the way, and he'll never speak to me again. I mean, she was seriously distressed. And I'm like, really, Mom? So I said, fine, I'll be there in a little bit. So I drove down, and I go upstairs, and I start talking to my grandfather like I talk to my children. And I was like, I tell my kids, they have a choice, just like you have a choice here. You can stay in bed, get pneumonia, and die, or you can let us take you to the hospital and call an ambulance because we can't get you down the stairs any other way. I said, and just like I give my children choices, you can clean your room. You can clean your room, or I'll beat your ass and you still have to clean your room. I said, it's your choice. I said,
reality check.
I said, so do you want us to call an ambulance and you be happy and agreeable with it? Or do you want us to call an ambulance? And we say, screw it, we don't care what you think. I guess I'll go. Fine, Mom, call the ambulance. So ambulance comes, and there's a male and a female, and they come up. Well, the way my parents' staircase was, they couldn't do the
turn.
So they
couldn't make the turn on the stairwell. Yeah.
Yeah, and with the stretcher. So they said, we're going to have to put him in a sheet like you would carry a hammock kind of thing. And I don't know what the
sling. It's called a sling.
A sling. Okay.
Yeah.
And we can't do that, just the two of us. So we're going to call for backup. So give us a few minutes. We said, okay. And so they said, okay, they're on their way. And we said, who's coming? And they said, the fire department down the street. And my parents and I were standing in their little entryway of their house. And I'm like, oh, this is going to be fun.
Men on parade right through the door.
Yeah. Oh my God. These 4 men come in and they're like, hello. And they were so sweet and kind. And they look like the men in those pictures, except they have their clothes on. Damn it.
You can figure out the rest underneath. Right.
But I was like, oh, and I'm watching
the energy.
Yeah, the energy, the testosterone, and I'm standing with my parents, and I'm like, I knew there was something good for me coming when I had to drive an hour to come down here. And I'm watching them go up the stairs, and I can hear several of them going, because they heard me.
They recognized that look in your eyes, didn't they?
And I was like, oh, thank y'all so much. You boys are so dedicated.
They had heard that before. So there is a word for that. And the word for that is firefly. These are men and women, mostly women, that are attracted to firefighters. And we started talking about that. Exactly. And it's a big part of their culture. It's a subculture. Firefighting and professional and first responders, there's a subculture and there's slang for it and all that. And doing the research, I also found that a lot of their inside slang and terminology with each other is also laden with sexual innuendo. They have deckies. The end of the hose is called the tip. What were some of the others that I told you?
The pipe instead of a hose.
Yeah, the hose is called a pipe. Doing it is putting out a fire and doing a game. Doing your job. The pipe man is the guy that's the firefighter that's on the truck. The stick, the can man, rattling the pans. Stretching it, all those words are typical slang inside of firefighting itself. I also found out another word is apparently fireflies also pursue a lot of police as well, and therefore they're called badge bunnies. So a firefly can be a badge bunny. Yeah. Chicks who dig uniforms, right?
Do you know what I did one time to a poor security guy? Oh my God. I was going with to a sea cruise. It was just like a one-day trip. You go out and gamble in the intercontinental waters and come back. And this was before 9/11, but they were still doing security on everybody that was going in. And they would just give them a quick scan. Yeah, and it was a wand thing. And, people were trickling in. It wasn't like we were in a long line or anything. And so me and the guy I was dating at the time, we go down, go down the dock and, to where the man is. And he's standing there waiting. And he's just standing there waiting with his wand. And, we say, hey, we're a few feet away. And I was probably back about 10 feet. And I spread eagle jumped with like a jumping jack. And I went, do me, baby, with your magic wand.
Was alcohol involved in this incident?
I had not been drinking yet. But I thought, this poor guy, he's been like wanding all these people, and it was just, and he just looked bored out of his mind, and he doubled over with laughter. I walked up, and he was like, he just halfway, he just kind of like threw it in front of me a little bit and said, "Go on." And my boyfriend's like, he's standing there waiting to be wanted, and he's going, "She's crazy."
Now he knew he was in for a good time with a date that does that. He was on the right track at the time. That's adorable. I'm sure that guy's whole day got brightened up.
It might brighten my day, regardless.
Context, baby. The humor flies.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Talk about double entendres. You know?
Yes, it was. Lots of them.
Always.
So this ties into what we were talking about with people either seeking or trying to live out, or even sometimes enjoying labels on themselves, on other people. And the purpose of the labels is largely to define who society thinks they either are or should be. And therefore, we're talking about limiting what you really are to just the vernacular of that title, be it a pronoun or a doctor or a Mr. or a Mrs. or a mix or a Ms. Or whatever you want to do. Heck, go put an MZ in there and freak out everybody. Just mix it up.
My. Just call me My.
Just call me My. I'm the great My am. Absolutely. And that, but turning that back to where we were, you're talking about limiting yourself, and people are doing that automatically. Voluntarily for generations. This is not just, we're talking about modern incidences, yes. But if you look at this further, this Mr., Ms., Doctor, Preacher, Reverend, Mrs. versus Miss, on and on and on, firefighter, police, military, the ranks, and so on. This is all about division. This is all about separating the haves and the have-nots.
And in fact, I've got another image I want to throw up here. I got to find another.
Angie never heard that before. What?
I know. Like, I'm gonna throw up a thing here. No, not literally.
Spit it out. No, thank you.
Well, spit it out, Iris. What are you gonna say?
Type it out loud.
Well, if I can get.
You're looking at a cartoon, yeah. To share.
It's actually not a cartoon. I sent it to you earlier.
Oh, is this about the baby?
And didn't even make
about babies?
Yes.
Yes. Oh, I thought you were doing that as a part of what we were talking about. Yes, the baby self.
Honestly, I just now made the connection.
All right.
So yeah, this one says.
You read the first part. I'll read the second part.
Okay. This woman posts, "Why do people think it's okay to call babies he or she? They can't speak yet, so they can't say their preferred gender." She goes on, "Please refer them as baby self or toddler self until they can say their pronoun preference. Otherwise, you're ableist and transphobic."
Well, there it is, people. The stupidest thing I'll read today.
Yeah, it's a cartoon underneath of a man reading a paper.
Oh my God. Toddler self, baby self. Otherwise, you are transphobic. I have not seen ableist before. I don't know what that is yet, but I can figure it out.
Enabler type. Ableist. Yeah.
That's what I deduced. Yeah. But baby self and toddler self. No. No, I can't do that. I thought you were commenting on our subject when you sent that out, but yes, tell them about what else you ran into this week.
Oh, we had
you researched
the Fireflies, And well, the fireflies and other fetishes. And almost immediately, I went out one evening, letting the dog do her business, and I saw a lightning bug. And I was like, gosh, it's kind of early for lightning bugs, isn't it?
May
But and
in North Carolina. Yeah, that's early.
yeah, and it was just one, and I was like, oh, that's cool, And he kind of flew by me, and all right, that's cool. Then a couple days later, I'm walking the dog, and behind me, they the people the property divider has been planted with a bunch of wildflowers, and went closer to see what they were, because they're really coming up. It's pretty lots of yellow, and I went over and I was like, God, they smell so good. And I bent down and was smelling one, and I looked at the one next to it. There was a firefly, and I picked it up and held it for a minute. I let it crawled around on my hand, and I looked at it, and I'm like, well, hello, are you enjoying the fly? I'm chit-chatting with all my bugs. And
Sure.
then he
She.
drifted off. She drifted off. And darn, I I went over to the window it's been up and down this week depending on the weather. And it's the one my dog usually looks out. And when I bent down to close it, on the other side of the screen, there was a firefly. And I was like, I mean, I haven't seen them like lighting up the yard, but 3 times.
Three is a spirit animal talking to you.
Yeah.
For sure. Female, but just to clear up what I was talking about, I said she. I interrupted you and said she. Female fireflies crawl around on the ground and in the flowers and on the leaves and stems. Male fireflies fly through the air looking for the females by their blink pattern. Each species has its own blink pattern. And so they're flying through the air looking for their matching blink pattern on the ground. That's how you know you got a male or a female. Where did you find it? On the ground or in the air?
How do you know? I mean, these flowers are kind of tall. Maybe he was just a tired male.
This is true. See, that's yeah. This is where you got to interview him and ask him what his pronoun preference is.
They.
Pardon me, you can call me doctor. I am Dr. Firefly to you. I don't do pronouns.
I do amateur nouns.
Now that would be a fetish. So,
holy cow, we crawl deep, don't we?
we do. We're getting in there good. So we come back around. The title of our show was Fireflies and Other Fetishes. And there are other fetishes out there, but they're all the same thing. They're all still limiting the person to an inside of one identity. We talked about one that had positive to neutral to negative meanings. The label fag hag, straight women who hang out with gay men, possibly excessively, or not excessively, but a lot.
A lot of times, the reason that came about was because if they were isolating themselves and hiding behind the gay men, that's where the hag part comes in. It's like, oh,
that's where the hag and the derogatory part of it came in. A couple of days ago, I was taking a portrait of a lesbian couple and these two pretty girls, and I had them get in kind of a tango kind of pose, a dance pose, cheek to cheek, and holding their hand real close to the camera, like this, to show off their jewelry. So it was a foreshortened thing that had their little happy faces, way behind their hands in the distance. And I had them do it like three or four different shots. And eventually one of them said, looks like somebody has a finger fetish. And I said, well, you could guess that. And I see where you got it from. But you got to remember, I'm a wedding photographer, so I'm trying to get people's wedding bands. And that's really what I'm doing, but I'll take that compliment.
And you got to take a bunch of them to be sure it's right.
Exactly. And her and her girlfriend and the family that was nearby just busted out laughing. They had been drinking. It was awesome. And she was being playful. But yeah, fetish stuff shows up everywhere. And the downside of that is that sometimes people feel rejected. And we wanted to go down this aisle a little bit too, I think, into this conversation about people feeling inhibited by such labels or the fear of being labeled.
Or fear. It goes between the fear of exposure and you don't mind embracing a label if it applies to you, unless somebody else sees that as a negative label. What is acceptance to you might be negative to somebody else. An example is right down the street. I've got a nudist camp. It's like you can go and stay for an afternoon, a night, a week. They have little cabins for rent and all that stuff, and and it's and it's family friendly, and there's been stuff in the paper about it over the years, and every once in a while it'll come up and people go, really? That's right here in our county? Oh, it's like
in the South.
You can't drive down the highway and see them. You can see the entrance, but they're way down the road.
They're not parading around in their birthday suits, y'all.
Yeah, at least
not as much as you want them to.
Yeah, maybe if you had a drone,
Yeah, there's laws about that too. But here in the Bible Belt, that's unusual. Yeah, there's actually a nudist neighborhood in the town right beside ours.
Oh,
and
cool.
Yeah, the HOA, you have to be a nudist to live there.
Wow.
Which is cool because people do their yard work and around the house in the nude. And they have certain days that they do things and not do things that the whole group, everybody knows on Mondays this, on Tuesdays that, on weekends this.
Washing day and fish day. And
I'm not exactly sure what they do. I didn't ask that much.
Oh man, I'd be all over that. I'm just
one of my friends. She lives there. She's single and she lives there, and she just mentioned it off the cuff, and I didn't want to ask too much and sound like a total geek. I didn't want to talk about really what could I sound like a voyeur, which is another fetish, and that's fine, but I'm not. So I didn't want to ask too much, but apparently there's a sort of a schedule so that the whole neighborhood knows what to expect, because it is a public place and the public can drive through if they don't know. I mean, it's not posted anywhere. It's not posted anywhere. It's not a gated community. It's not like they have a gate
around it with signs going, please don't feed the naked people.
This is caviar champagne and a rack of ribs. Yeah. A crab and a chocolate pie. Yeah.
and I'm gonna go back to the nudist colony story in a minute, but reminds me of a guy that I used to know, that he and his girlfriend were naturalists. And so he said one Saturday, a couple of Jehovah's Witnesses come knocking on their door, and he opens the door and he's kind of peeking around the door and he goes, yeah, can I help you? And it's like, we'd like to share with you, whatever. And he
says, teachings of God, right?
Yeah. Right. And he says, we're naturalists. Well, that's fine. We just want to talk to you. They didn't understand
what I mean. Look, I'm trying to be PC about this.
He opened the door. Come on in. And his girlfriend walked in the background, and she's like, who's here, honey? And a couple of guys want to talk to us about scripture.
About the good news of scripture.
And the guys were like, no.
You will do these things in greater than I. all you need to know.
Yeah. And but so sometimes you go, hey, he didn't care.
That's a good story. That's one way to get rid of solicitors at your door.
Yeah. But
So
then
circle around to your story. Yeah.
the nudist camp thing, I was aware of them, and then I was working at Parks and Recreation Department, and we went to a annual convention thing, and in of course at all conventions they have a big hall of vendors and stuff, and so I was wandering through and I saw like the North Carolina naturalists, whatever, or nudists, or whoever, whatever their name was, at a booth.
As a
And it
group.
was
Yeah, as a booth.
yeah, and
Yeah.
it was an older woman. She probably was around 60, 65. Um, and she was giving away back scratchers, and I still have my back scratcher somewhere. It was really cool. It was a wooden back scratcher. I was like, how cool is that? But when I walked up and I kind of went, so I wonder if the camp that's near my home is in your
Related.
system. And I told her the name, and she, yes, it is. And she, and we started having this nice conversation. And I was like,
Oh,
well, that's really cool. I said, you hear stories, but it really
you
is
rarely get to
interesting.
talk to the people.
Yeah, and she was like, here, have one of our back scratchers. And what was cool was when I started talking to her, and I gave her recognition and acceptance, to see her whole demeanor just relax. And it was like, and even at the time I thought, I wonder how many people have come by and given her some sort of grief or just comments. You know how people can make comments?
Or roll their eyes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I said, well, yeah, it's a legitimate outdoor activity. They play volleyball and go swimming and camping and hiking,
And they don't worry about clothing and labels and strata and self-consciousness. Yeah. It's
right. We
actually,
wear
yeah,
label-free clothing.
exactly.
We wear labels and no clothing.
Well, in a natural society, in a no clothing society like that, you learn really quick not to judge each other based on what you look like, because
Exactly.
it's a level playing field. Everybody's out there, literally. Yeah.
Baby,
You
let it
stop
all hang
judging.
out.
Yeah, you stop judging because you see it all eventually, and yours is too. And you realize there's nothing wrong with me, and there's
Yeah.
nothing wrong with somebody who looks a little different. Actually,
Yeah.
they don't look so different because we all look a little different, you know?
It's
Yeah.
amazing for how different and unique we can celebrate ourselves to be. We also have so much to share and share so many commonalities. And it's just, I'm continually amazed at how people will limit themselves with
Yeah.
labels or
Hide behind them. Yeah.
assume
Mm.
and issue labels without knowing if that's even true.
Amen,
And
sister.
that drives me crazy. And I remember I was in I think I was in like 10th or 11th grade when my English teacher, who was also the drama teacher, wrote on the board, never assume anything, ASS-U-ME, because you'll make an ass of you and me. And we all cracked up, but 45 years later, it's still sticking with
Years
me.
later.
Yeah. I roll that back.
Now, was that high school for you?
Yes.
I didn't learn that phrase, ass of you and me, until college. So you beat me on that one. So you got me on that one. And it's a very clever mnemonic way to remember the concept that the point is. Yeah.
And I gave it to every one of my classes. When I would teach, I'd do the same thing. And
Write it on the board.
Yeah. Yeah.
As a school teacher, as an English teacher, you learned how to write backwards, didn't you? Over your shoulder, and how to underline stuff as you go. Yes,
You,
of you and me.
yeah, and it's just such a cool concept to, to embrace and
Yeah.
understand. Yeah, I got to quit assuming things.
Titles allow you to assume certain things about that person. Um, a real interesting one is when gay people get married and people see their ring, they assume that they're hetero. And they completely forget that since 2013, it's been legal to marry any gender. And so, yeah, a lot of gay people have to, my wife, and she and I, you have to be able to say that and negotiate that. But we're coming to, I think we're coming towards our point that I think that we wanted to come around to. Help me here a little bit, Iris, about we can let go of that stuff
Yeah,
and move towards compassion. Yeah.
and I think, and that's a big part of it, is that it's encouraging people to, first of all, don't assume that you know somebody based on one tiny fragment of who they are or what you see. um
Yeah.
and avoid making blanket statements about groups or people, or, oh, you must be one of them because, and you know um
Oh, here's
and
one. I just,
it reminds me of, like, my sister, and I may have told this story before, I don't remember, but she had moved to Baton Rouge and was touring schools. This was probably 20 years ago, touring schools for her children because she and her family were getting ready to move to Baton Rouge. And they wanted to pick, they were debating, okay, we're going to go to public school. What are the schools like in the neighborhood? Where, are we going to send them to
doing the
some private?
conscientious parenting thing.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Quality
And they,
environment. Right.
right. And so she and her husband go to a particular school. And as they're touring, it's a very nice school and seems really good. And the guy that's giving them the tour is really nice. And she says, I know this is a religious based school, but I can't remember who sponsors it. And the guy kind of paused and he said, Jimmy Swaggart Ministries. And she and her husband both looked at each other because Swaggart had just come out with that tearful plea for forgiveness and all that stuff. It just had happened. And she and her husband kind of looked at each other, and the guy goes, well, it's not like he's walking the halls or anything.
Good save. Good save. It's not like he's here every day sweeping the floors. Oh,
lurking around corners, he's not the principal.
lurking and lurking.
And so, but
You and
again,
your sister have the best stories, I swear. Yeah. Get her back on here.
next week.
Yay!
Next
All right,
week.
we'll talk about that in a minute. All right, good, good.
So it's just, but it's that, again, applying one little fragment of what you know about somebody, just how we put titles on movie stars, how their real life versus what they are on screen, and people assume they're the same. And it's like, oh, oh, you're gay, then I know what kind of person you are. Or,
Right.
oh, you love firemen, you must be a firefly and have no brain.
Right. Which implies flighty. Here's something real funny. The Andy Griffith Show, Mount Pilot, Mount Airy, very popular in North Carolina. For those of you that don't know, the Andy Griffith Show was a small town sheriff in a small town who always played the
Who
goody.
doesn't know about
Andy Griffith, Andy Taylor. He played the character of Andy Taylor, and he was always the good guy and the sweet guy and the gentle voice of reason, and sometimes a little bit of comedy. And Barney, his deputy, became the comic relief, and he lived with his Aunt Bee. his spinster, and who was, oh, a nice little lady, always making pies and taking care of Abby and come to dinner. You have a catchphrase.
Andy, someone's on the table, come home.
That's it.
Somebody did a song.
The consummate, warm, gentle, affectionate housekeeper for Andy and his little son. Well, the scuttlebutt, once the series ended, the scuttlebutt came out that both of them were mean, pushy, aggressive, short-tempered people. And you can see, if you go back, you can see episodes where halfway through the show, suddenly Andy has a cast on his arm that goes over his wrist, and they have him turned playing a guitar with the wrong hand to hide the cast against the wall. And what had happened was he'd gotten angry in between takes and had punched the wall and had broken his hand. And same thing with the lady that played Aunt B. She was known for being short-tempered and difficult to work with, very short-tempered and difficult to work with. But you would never know that because of the Hollywood image they had, exactly like you said, what you think they are in real life versus what their characters and public personas are pitched as. Tom Hanks is a contradiction in his private life versus what he sells on the screen as Mr. Good Guy. He's a shocking person, just to put it mildly, and that there are lots of people that way. However, sidebar, there are lots of Hollywood stars who are exactly what they present. A good example would be Mel Gibson.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, everything he's done, he's done for a reason. And he's like that behind the screen and, or he's reportedly like that on and off the screen. Just as
And
two
media
different
manipulates you.
And the media manipulates you to make you look crazy or make you look cool. Right. Absolutely. Yeah. And all these things are elements of, again, social separation that keeps us from learning how connected we really are and how much we have in common. And while you were talking, I thought of an even better example. You and I have very similar personalities, very similar senses of humor, and stuff we talk about off camera as well as on camera, political stuff and social stuff and metaphysical stuff and heart stuff and shamanic stuff and all kinds of good stuff. We're pretty much, I'd say, in my opinion, we're like 99.9% on the same page.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. For the sake of getting my point across, do you mind saying what your political affiliation is officially?
Officially, I'm a registered Democrat.
I'm a registered Republican. Guess what? It does not matter. If we can do it, you can.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Do not buy the labels, people. Political labels, social labels, race labels, gender labels, age labels.
And have you noticed how the labels are changing where, to make a mockery of the other party. If you're not the same, then you must be stupid. You must be whatever. And both sides say that. And you see regular human beings being mean to each other just
for
because
over a label.
Yeah. A label.
Yeah. And they never met each other. And they're tearing each other down. Were you there? Is my number one question. Did you see it yourself? Were you there? Then you're just repeating what you heard someone else say.
Mm-hmm.
And that's okay to talk about it if you're trying to get information, but to espouse it as a truth or judge somebody as a truth.
And
you're walking the ragged edge of disaster.
Teaching it to someone else, especially children.
Oh, yeah, that gives me the creeps. Yeah. You're teaching prejudice. excuse me, let's take ownership of that. We are teaching them prejudice. I believe in the philosophies of Ho'oponopono, which means if you understand or have any kind of awareness of any situation, then you are contributing energy to it. So since I've chosen to speak about this Ho'oponopono, we are teaching inadvertently and now less ignorantly, because you and I are talking about it. Watch your labels, people. Own who you are and don't worry about what other people own. Yeah.
And, it's funny because today I was creating a newsletter for my job, which is advising, it was a newsletter with tips on looking for work.
Yeah.
And I sent it out to the community college.
Oh.
And I created a little graphic to go in it that was a light bulb laying on a table. And it was like, looking, and I said, I put up the imaginary conversation. So what kind of job do you want? Oh, I'll do anything. I just need the money, the job, the, work,
Occupation.
whatever. Yeah. And under it, I said, always know what you want to do. Go for, don't, I said, never, how'd I word it? Stop saying that. And I tell that to people all the time. When I ask somebody, I'm working on the resume, what kind of job do you want to do? And they'll go, oh, I'll do anything. No, you won't. And
No,
don't
you won't.
say that, because as soon as you do, the universe is going to give you something that you're going to go, well, I didn't mean that. And then it's going to be confusion. I said,
and then it all stops because you just said, I didn't mean that. So now it all stops.
And
you
so
said the truth. It tried to do it. You said no. So now nothing happens.
And so what I did was I created this like little meme to say that without saying that, because I couldn't be metaphysical in my can't be metaphysical in my day job. Not totally.
There's Irish magic in there. I know there is.
I am, but I'm not yet. But at the very bottom, because it's really kind of cool, because I found a picture of a light bulb laying on a table, and I say, don't stop saying that, and decide what you want to do, go for it, be flexible, because you never know what it could lead to.
Right.
And a couple of points like that. And then at the bottom I said, give out the energy that you want to bring back, or something like that. I made a yeah, something like that. And it was like, and then when I finished it, I went, I do that.
Yeah.
It was one of those things that just kind of serendipitously happened, and
you're channeling greatness.
Yeah. But
wonderful.
But it's the same thing here.
You're channeling wisdom. Absolutely.
And what are you, and I say you in the general term,
sure,
when you're judging someone else, or you're giving out names like that, and you're assuming things, what kind of energy are you calling back to you?
Next level of awareness.
Yay.
Namaste. Awesome. Your sister gave us another pearl.
Don't you think it's not only what celebrities sell, but it's also what we imprint on them as what we hope they are? Oh yeah.
That's another way of saying what we just said.
Yeah.
People will manifest what you project onto them. Classic story, a teacher, junior high, left in the middle of the year, a 7th grade science class, and left in the middle of the year, and a substitute teacher came in right in the middle of the class, and she was given a list of numbers with all the children's names beside them. The teacher left on Friday. The new one had to start on Monday, right where she left off. No time to do research, nothing. And they gave her a list of all the students' names and all their numbers. And their numbers were, 102, 103, 104, 105, and they were mixed up, but they went all the way to 130, 135, something like that. And she thought that they were their IQ numbers, but she didn't say anything. And she treated them like exceptional children that had high IQ numbers. And they did great. For the next several weeks, she taught them at the level she thought they were at. And after a few weeks, her boss finally got back around to her and said, "So how do you like teaching the special needs class?" And she was like, "What?" And he said, they're not these slowest students we got, but these are the below average students classes, the ones that are coming in on D's and failing, and we're trying to catch them up. He said, "I see you got great numbers, great grades here. How are you doing? How are you liking it?" And she's like, "I thought these were your exceptional kids on the other end. Isn't this their IQs?" And he went, "No, that's their locker numbers." She was given a list of their locker numbers. And they were excelling because that's the level she was coming at them at. And they were making A's and B's because she was treating them that way.
Yeah.
Classic. Yeah. How you treat people. Thank you, Deborah, for bringing that angle in here. How you treat people is what they will conspire to do and be. So treat people as, I know you can do and be more.
Mm-hmm.
Show me, impress me.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's interesting. Well, we have gotten all the way to 10:35.
And we, as usual, it's one of those things we could go on and on about. Let me send them off with a laugh. Shall I share a couple of the really funny oddball?
Yes, about fetishes.
Yes. Okay. This one was just a good belly laugh. I couldn't help myself.
Throw it out there.
It's a bunch of paper cutout figures, people standing around a light bulb. Fetishes. It may take only one pervert to put in a light bulb, but it takes the whole emergency room to remove
it. Truth, baby. This is a good one. Pop this one up.
Your fetishes, oh, make it whole page. Your fetishes are nothing to be ashamed about. Unless your fetish is being humiliated, then you should be very ashamed, you nasty little pervert.
And that was encouraging.
So don't assume anything about people, or you'll make an ass of you and me.
Mm-hmm.
And just again reminding people, not just tolerance, but acceptance as well.
Go beyond tolerance and get into acceptance. Even Muji commented on that. He said, "Think of everybody as a flower, and you don't have to particularly enjoy the smell of a flower to let it be and just walk away and go be with flowers that you do like the smell of. You don't have to like the way every flower smells to let it live and let it be." And I was like, "Oh, that's a good one."
Yeah.
Yeah. Muji, Mooji. For those that want to look him up, he's all over YouTube.
New one on me. So next week you have a wedding to attend to, and my sister is going to join me and co-host the show. Woo-hoo! And so that is on May 26th, and we're going to talk about the butterfly effect.
Ooh.
And kind of, a little bit of metaphysical in there, but also kind of expanding on what we've talked about and how the actions that we do can ripple out and affect other people. and we're going to have some examples
Absolutely.
for you and build around that. So
Those are some of the basic laws of the universe, physics and metaphysics. Absolutely. Yeah, butterfly effect, ripple effect. Yep. Cause and effect.
yeah.
Well, good. Yep. David and I, he's got to officiate a wedding, and I got to photograph it. That, and for those of you that don't know, that's our full-time job.
And
We
it's
have a
busy season for
and it's busy season. Our business is called Beach People Weddings. If you want to see it, beachpeopleweddings.com. Ton of photos, ton of videos. It's gorgeous. We've won awards.
yes.
Even for the pictures, we have won awards. Go check it out. But yep, this is our busy season. So off and on this summer, you're going to see me disappear, and Iris is going to have a fun guest speaker, somebody cool in here with her. So stick around for more fun next week with Deborah.
And I'm going to create a crawler for you for Beach People Weddings. I keep forgetting to do that.
Sorry. Oh, you can do that. You can do my website, indigoanswers.com. You could do Lua, networkthelight.net.
Yeah.
Pick
and
one,
go
honey.
to Amazon, find my book, The Care and Feeding of Ghosts and the Children Who See Them. It's a practical guide with some entertaining stories in there about what to do when your children claim they see ghosts.
And you can find my book on Amazon too, Learn Reiki. It's a textbook series.
Yay. Hey, we are out there, people.
I'm telling you, Democrats and Republicans working together.
That's it. We're more alike than people want to admit.
Exactly. We all are. Iris, I love you.
I love you too.
Thank you for coming out to play with me tonight.
Oh, and thank you. I appreciate it. I know you're on a busy schedule and out of town tonight, and I appreciate you making the effort.
No worries. So. This is fun. I love being here. Good night, everyone. Thank you for being here, and we'll see you again next week.
Yes.
Yeah, or
yes.
She will.
Yes. Thank you for joining The Eyes of Indigo with Iris Carter and Margot Ross Sears. Music is Arcadia by Kevin MacLeod of Incomptech.com, licensed under Creative Commons. Visit our Facebook page for broadcast details, www.facebook.com/eyesofindigo. Show is copyrighted 2021 by Iris